Within every human being resides a source of power so immense that if unleashed in a single instant, it could rewrite the history of a life, a power capable of building empires, healing the body, and manifesting astonishing genius. This power is not a mystical gift reserved for a few. It is your inheritance. It is the power of your own consciousness. But for most, this power remains dormant, or, worse still, is wasted. It's like having a colossal fire hose with immense pressure, but without a nozzle to direct the stream. Water shoots out in all directions, a spray of anxious thoughts, a vapor of digital distractions, a drip of half-started goals. The energy is there, but being scattered, it lacks the force to move anything. It's powerlessness in the midst of infinite power. Florence Scovel Shinn, the great metaphysical master of the 20th century, discovered that there exists a drug, a substance found in no external laboratory, but synthesized in the alchemy of your own consciousness. A drug that acts as the nozzle for that hose. A drug that concentrates all that scattered power into a laser beam of unimaginable potency, capable of cutting through the steel of any obstacle. That drug is absolute focus. This message is not a theory. It's a training manual. It won't give you more power because you already have it all. It will teach you to stop wasting it. You'll learn to eliminate the power thieves that sabotage your mind, strengthen your concentration muscle until it becomes unshakable, and direct your attention's laser to sculpt the reality you choose, not the one imposed upon you. Before continuing, write in the comments, "I accept the power of focus." This declaration is your commitment to the transformation about to begin. By writing it, you join a brotherhood of minds that have chosen mastery over mediocrity. The universe's most powerful drug cannot be bought. It must be cultivated. Chapter 1. The Mind as a Laser Beam. Observe a day in the life of the modern mind. The alarm sounds, and before consciousness fully settles in the body, the hand reaches for the phone. The first light the eyes see is not that of the sun, but the blue light of a screen that floods the brain with a torrent of external information. Work emails, news of distant crises, the edited and perfect lives of others on social media. In the first 5 minutes of the day, the mind has already been hijacked, its power scattered in a dozen directions, its emotional state stained by urgency, comparison, and anxiety. The workday begins. The intention is to work on an important project, but after 3 minutes a notification arrives, an email, the mind changes context, responds. It returns to the project, but part of its attention, a cognitive residue, remains on the email. WhatsApp sounds, another change, a quick conversation. Back to the project, but now focus is even more fragmented. A browser tab opens to search for data. 50 minutes later, the person realizes they've been lost in a black hole of videos and articles completely unrelated to their original task. This is the condition of the scattered mind. It's not a character defect. It's the result of an environment designed to hijack our most valuable resource, attention. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that we live in a constant war for our focus, and we're losing it. This constant fragmentation doesn't just make us less productive. It's making us sick at a neurological level. Each context switch, each interruption is a small stress blow to the brain. It releases a microdose of cortisol. Multiply this by the hundreds of changes we make every day, and the result is a chronic, low-grade state of fight or flight. We live with constant tension, with a sensation of always being busy but never advancing, of being exhausted without having created anything of value. We've confused movement with action, busyness with creation, and forgotten the fundamental law of power. The power of a single point, focus versus laser consciousness, is energy. Your attention is the direction in which that energy flows. The difference between a life of mediocrity and one of mastery doesn't lie in the amount of energy you possess, but in your capacity to concentrate it. Imagine a 100-watt light bulb. Its energy disperses in 360 degrees. It dimly illuminates a room, allowing you to see general shapes, but without the power to affect anything. Its light is weak, diffuse, powerless. This is the scattered mind. Now imagine we take those same 100 watts of energy and through a series of lenses and mirrors, concentrate them into a single, coherent beam of light. We create a laser. That same power, once powerless, can now cut steel, perform precision surgery, send a message to the moon. This is the focused mind. The power to control your mind is the art of going from being a light bulb to being a laser beam. A student with a light bulb mind studies for 3 hours with the phone nearby, music playing, and 10 tabs open. In the end, they barely remember anything. Their energy has been dispersed. A student with a laser mind studies in 45-minute blocks of absolute focus without distractions. In those 45 minutes, they learn more than the other in 3 hours. Their energy has been concentrated. An entrepreneur with a light bulb mind tries to grow 10 projects at once. Their attention is so divided that none of them receives enough energy to take off. An entrepreneur with a laser mind chooses one project, the most important one, and directs all their creative force toward it day after day, until it breaks through all obstacles and becomes a success. The universe doesn't respond to the amount of effort. It responds to the intensity of focus. The physics of focus. The observer effect in action. This isn't just a good metaphor. It's a description of creation's physics. As Florence Scovel taught, the world at its most fundamental level is a quantum field of infinite potentiality, and it's consciousness's act of observation that collapses that potentiality into reality. A scattered gaze, that of the light bulb, is a consciousness observing thousands of possibilities at once. It weakly illuminates the entire field, but doesn't have sufficient intensity to collapse any particular wave. The result is a reality that feels random, confused, a mixture of all possibilities manifesting weakly and chaotically. A focused gaze, that of the laser, is a consciousness that has withdrawn its light from all other possibilities and concentrated it with unwavering intention on a single desired reality. This intense, sustained observation is an order to the quantum field. It says, of all the infinite versions of reality that exist as potential, collapse this one. Focus is not a simple productivity skill. It's the tool with which the seer sculpts the universe's energy. The biology of focus, the most powerful drug. And here we arrive at our theme's heart. When you manage to enter a state of deep focus, when your mind merges with the task and the external world disappears, your brain begins synthesizing its own most potent drug, a neurochemical cocktail that athletes call the zone, and psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi named the flow state. In this state, your brain releases a symphony of high-performance neurotransmitters, dopamine, which increases motivation and pleasure in the task, norepinephrine, which sharpens concentration and allows you to filter distractions, anandamide, the bliss molecule, which silences the inner critic and fosters lateral, creative thinking endorphins, which give you a sense of euphoria and allow you to overcome discomfort. This cocktail is the universe's most powerful drug. It can't be bought, can't be injected, it can only be generated from within. And the only prerequisite for its synthesis is absolute focus. This state doesn't just make you feel incredibly good. It's the state in which you're most productive, most creative, and learn at maximum speed. It's the optimal state of human consciousness. Modern life's tragedy is that we've created an environment that almost systematically prevents us from accessing this source of inner power and joy. The Composer's Workshop, From Listening to Mastery. The initiate in the art of mind doesn't leave their focus to chance. They cultivate it with discipline and intention that border on the sacred. They enter their inner workshop and begin training. The first practice, the monotasking vow. The first act of rebellion against distraction culture is simple but radical, the monotasking vow. The initiate understands that multitasking is a lie. It's modern productivity's most destructive myth. They know at a neurological level that their brain is incapable of focusing on two cognitively demanding tasks simultaneously. What they call multitasking is actually rapid, constant switching from one task to another, a process that fragments attention, exhausts mental resources, and leaves a trail of mediocrity in everything it touches. Therefore, the master makes a vow. When they sit down to work, they don't say, "I'm going to try to concentrate." They perform a ritual. Define the mission. First, define a single sacred task. Not work on the report, but write the report's introduction. Clarity is focus's first step. Create the sanctuary. Then declare holy war against every possible interruption. The phone isn't silenced. It's turned off and moved to another room. Irrelevant browser tabs are closed. Computer notifications are disabled. They create a sanctuary of silence, a bubble of uninterrupted focus. Immerse. Finally, they immerse themselves in the task with total devotion. For the next 90 minutes, that task isn't something they do. It's the entire universe. This act of deliberate monotasking not only allows them to produce exponentially superior quality work, it's itself an act of meditation. It's training that teaches their brain again and again the feeling of deep focus. The second practice, training the attention muscle focus, is not a gift. It's a muscle. And like any muscle, it strengthens with training. The gym for this muscle is stillness. The practice is monofocal meditation. The initiate knows meditation is not an act of emptying the mind. It's the most rigorous training that exists for the prefrontal cortex, their attention's director. Choose the object. They sit in silence, close their eyes, and choose a single simple object for their attention. The most accessible and powerful is the sensation of breath entering and leaving through the tip of the nose. Begin training. Their only task for the next 10 or 20 minutes is to keep their attention's laser beam fixed on that single point. Conscious return. Inevitably, the mind, like a restless puppy, will escape. It will run after a thought, memory, worry. The beginner at this point gets frustrated. The master instead smiles. They know this is training's crucial moment. With infinite patience, as if gently taking the puppy by the neck, they accompany their attention back to the breath. Each of these acts of returning is a repetition, a curl for their focus muscle. With each return, they're weakening old distraction habits and strengthening their capacity to keep the laser beam steady and under conscious control. The third practice, the art of deep work. The master doesn't just train their focus, they apply it. They understand that great breakthroughs, great creations, masterpieces only occur in states of total immersion. They practice the art of deep work. The initiate divides the world into two activity categories: shallow work, tasks with low cognitive demand that don't create much new value, answering emails, attending meetings, performing administrative tasks. Deep work, tasks with high cognitive demand requiring undistracted focus. Writing strategy, coding complex programs, composing music, learning new skills. The initiate knows their success and fulfillment depend almost entirely on their capacity to perform deep work. Therefore, they structure their day and week around these immersion blocks. They protect their peak energy hours, usually early morning, as if they were gold. Those hours are sacred. They're for deep work. And they relegate shallow tasks, the busy work, to their energy valleys, to afternoons. They know 2 hours of work in laser mode are infinitely more valuable and productive than 10 hours in light bulb mode. The power to control your mind is not a metaphor. It's a trainable skill. It's the art of gathering your consciousness's scattered light and concentrating it into a beam capable of transforming your reality. Chapter 2. The Power Thieves. You're in the middle of a war, a silent, invisible, relentless war. A war for the 21st century's most valuable resource, your attention. To win this war, to recover your focus power, you must first know your enemy. You must understand the strategies, weapons, and tactics of the power thieves that every second attempt to fragment your mind and scatter your energy. You must understand a fundamental truth about the world you live in. Your attention is the planet's most coveted commodity. The business models of the world's largest and most powerful companies, social media companies, news conglomerates, entertainment platforms, aren't based on selling you products. They're based on capturing as many of your consciousness minutes as possible and then selling those minutes to the highest bidder, advertisers. You're not the customer, you're the product, and your mind is the territory to conquer. To achieve this conquest, these platforms have hired thousands of the world's most brilliant engineers, psychologists, and neuroscientists. Their sole mission isn't to inform or connect you, but to design systems so addictive it's almost impossible for the human brain to resist them. They've built an architecture of distraction. The architecture of distraction. This architecture is based on deliberate exploitation of our primitive brain's vulnerabilities. They use weapons of devastating effectiveness. Variable intermittent rewards. This is the slot machine principle. You don't know when you'll receive a notification, like, or comment. This uncertainty releases dopamine and forces you to compulsively check your phone, seeking the next unpredictable reward. Social validation. We're programmed to crave tribal approval. Each like is a microdose of social validation, a small dopamine hit that makes us feel accepted and keeps us hooked, coming back for more. Infinite scrolling. They've eliminated any stopping signal. Infinite scrolling on social media is a work of evil neurological genius. There's no page end telling your brain it's time to stop. There's always something more, a new image, new video, keeping your mind in perpetual search state. You've been recruited, without your consent, into a war where your own biology is used as a weapon against you. To recover your power, you must first unmask the thieves. The first thief, the digital siren. Your smartphone, the most omnipresent and intimate power thief, is the device you probably have in your hand or pocket right now. It's not a neutral tool. It's a portal to infinite distraction. It's a digital hypodermic needle constantly injecting you with microdoses of cheap dopamine, altering your brain chemistry and destroying your capacity for deep focus. The phone as dopamine drip. As we've explored, dopamine is motivation's molecule, but the brain doesn't distinguish between dopamine obtained by achieving a long-term goal and that obtained by seeing a notification. The phone's is faster, easier, and more frequent. Constant phone use retrains your brain, accustoming it to constant, low-quality stimulation. As a result, activities requiring sustained focus and delayed gratification, reading a book, learning a skill, having a deep conversation, begin feeling boring. Your brain, addicted to the quick dopamine drip, no longer has patience or capacity for the effort deep work requires. This device has created an epidemic of what's known as phantom vibration syndrome. The sensation that your phone is vibrating in your pocket when it's not. This isn't a simple anecdote. It's terrifying proof this technology has infiltrated and rewired your nervous system at a fundamental level. Your brain has learned to anticipate distraction even when it's not there. The second thief, multitasking. The most dangerous and seductive enemy isn't on our phone screen, it's inside. It's a program we've installed ourselves in our operating system, erroneously believing it's a virtue, the multitasking myth. In our frantic productivity culture, the ability to juggle many things at once has become a badge of honor. The professional who can answer emails while on a conference call while simultaneously planning their next task is seen as an efficiency model. We've come to believe multitasking is a high-level skill. The truth, backed by decades of neuroscientific research, is that multitasking is a lie. The human brain is, by design, a monofocal processor. It's fundamentally incapable of paying attention to two cognitively demanding tasks simultaneously. What we call multitasking is actually a process called task switching. It's the act of rapidly, constantly changing our attention's focus from one task to another. And each of these switches, however fast, has immense neurological cost. The cost of switching. Each switch requires your brain to download all information and context from the first task and load the new context. This consumes valuable glucose and oxygen resources. Attention. Residue. As researcher Cal Newport has demonstrated, switching is never complete. Part of your attention, a cognitive residue, gets stuck on the previous task. When you return to the report after answering an email, part of your brain is still thinking about the email, drastically reducing your cognitive capacity for the report. Increased errors. Studies show people working in constant context-switching environments make up to 50% more errors. Cognitive exhaustion. This constant switching is incredibly demanding for your prefrontal cortex, your attention's director. It's like doing hundreds of mental push-ups every hour. It leads to decision fatigue and exhaustion much faster. Multitasking doesn't make you more productive. It makes you busier, more stressed, and produces lower quality work. It's a power thief, disguised as efficiency. The third thief, inner noise. Finally, we arrive at the most fundamental thief, the origin of much of our external distraction. The enemy isn't just in the world or our work habits, it's in the chaos of our own untrained mind. It's inner noise. The initiate in focus art understands they can't project a coherent laser beam if the light source, their own mind, is a whirlwind of noise. This noise has three main sources. Unresolved emotions. Every emotion we repress, every resentment we hold, every fear we don't face doesn't disappear. It stays in our system as background static, like a program constantly running in the background, consuming our mental energy. It's impossible to reach deep focus if part of your mind is constantly fighting to keep your past's ghosts at bay. Open loops. The human mind hates unfinished tasks. Every promise we make and don't keep, every project we start and abandon, every decision we postpone creates an open loop in our psyche. Psychologist Bluma Zygarnik demonstrated our mind remembers incomplete tasks much better than completed ones. Each of these open loops is like a browser tab you leave open in your mind, and each tab consumes a small portion of your mental RAM. If you have dozens of these tabs open, your processor slows to almost a stop. You feel overwhelmed, scattered, exhausted, because your mind is spending all its power simply remembering everything pending. The inner critic. The most insidious noise of all is the inner critic's voice, that incessant narrator judging, comparing, and criticizing our every move. You're not good enough. Who do you think you are? You're going to fail. This voice is the ultimate power thief because it doesn't just steal your attention, it steals your confidence. It keeps you in a state of contraction and fear, the direct opposite of the expansion and flow state required for creation and deep focus. The practice of silence. The first act of recovery. The initiate knows that to fight external thieves, they must first pacify their inner territory. Their practice isn't fighting noise, but creating silence. One of the most powerful practices for this is mental dumping. The master, each night before bed or each morning before starting work, takes a journal and for 10 minutes empties their mind onto paper. They note every pending task, every idea, every worry, every resentment, unfiltered, without order, simply getting everything out of their head and into an external, reliable system. This simple act is incredibly liberating. By externalizing open loops, they free their mind from the exhausting task of having to remember them. It's like closing all unnecessary tabs in their mental browser. And in the space created, in the silence that emerges, there's finally room for focus. The power thieves are real. The external world, with its digital sirens, fights for your attention, and your own inner world, with multitasking myth and chaos noise, conspires to scatter it. You've unmasked your enemies. You've seen their tactics. The first step to winning the war is knowing the battlefield. Now you know it. Chapter 3. The physics of attention. Attention is creation's currency. It's the primordial energy with which you purchase your experiences from the vast catalog of infinite potentiality. Your life's quality is a direct consequence of your attention's quality. What you give your attention to flourishes. What you withdraw your attention from withers. There are no exceptions to this law. Florence Scovel-Shinn taught to imagine that universal consciousness's field is a vast, dark stage filled with infinite sets, actors, and potential scripts. Your attention is that theater's single, potent spotlight. The scene you choose to illuminate with your attention's spotlight is the only one that becomes real for you. The others, though coexisting as possibilities in darkness, remain latent. A scattered mind is a spotlight flickering chaotically, briefly illuminating a fragment of one scene, then another, without the coherence necessary for a complete work to be performed. The result is a life feeling fragmented, incoherent, purposeless. A focused mind is a stable, potent, directed spotlight. It's a director deliberately choosing a scene, that of abundance, health, mastery, and keeping their light fixed on it with unwavering patience and persistence until that scene is completely illuminated and becomes the only work performed on their life's stage. This isn't a simple metaphor. It's a description of reality's fundamental architecture, a truth cutting-edge physics has had to accept, often reluctantly. The quantum revelation. The universe is observing you. To understand your attention's true power, we must travel to matter's heart, to quantum physics's strange and paradoxical world. For centuries we've lived under Isaac Newton's classical physics hypnosis. It was an elegant, predictable, and above all objective universe. A cosmos functioning like a great clockwork mechanism composed of solid, separate objects interacting according to fixed laws. In this universe, the moon is there orbiting Earth, regardless of whether anyone is looking at it. Reality existed out there, solid and separate from us, and our job as observers was simply to measure and describe it. But in the early 20th century, a group of pioneering physicists who began exploring the subatomic realm, matter's very heart, discovered that at that fundamental scale, Newton's universe rules broke completely. They discovered a world that wasn't solid, wasn't predictable, wasn't objective. They discovered the quantum realm, and at this new, strange realm's heart, they found the deepest mystery of all, a mystery encapsulated in the famous double-slit experiment. The double-slit experiment, the sacred parable. Imagine you have a wall with two vertical slits and a detection screen behind. If you fire small matter particles, like marbles, through the slits, you'd expect to see two lines of impacts on the screen, one behind each slit. And that's exactly what happens. Now, if you send a wave, like a water ripple, through the same two slits, the wave will split in two, interfere with itself on the other side, and create an interference pattern on the screen. A series of many lines where wave crests have added and valleys have canceled each other out. So far, everything is logical. Now comes quantum magic. Physicists decided to perform the experiment with matter's smallest particles, like electrons. When they fired electrons one by one, without any observer at the slits, what pattern appeared on the screen? Against all logic, an interference pattern appeared. This meant something impossible, that the single electron, passing through the slits, behaved like a wave. Somehow, it passed through both slits at once and interfered with itself, as if it knew where future electrons would land to form the pattern. The electron, before being measured, wasn't a thing. It was a wave of pure potentiality. It existed as a cloud of all its possible locations at once. But here's where the mystery becomes even deeper and more directly relevant to your mind's power. The physicists, perplexed, decided to spy. They placed a detector at the slits to observe which one the electron actually passed through. And the moment they did, magic vanished. In the precise instant the observer, the detector, measured the electron stopped being a potentiality wave. It collapsed into a defined particle. It passed through a single slit, and the screen pattern returned to two simple lines, like marbles. Let's pause to absorb this implication. The simple act of observing changed reality's behavior. The observer's consciousness wasn't simply seeing an event. It was participating in the event's creation. The universe didn't seem to decide what form to take, wave, or particle, until a consciousness paid attention to it. This is the observer effect. It's the most profound and, for many, most terrifying scientific discovery of all time. It completely collapses the idea of an objective universe separate from us. It suggests reality, at its most fundamental level, isn't a fixed object, but a field of infinite potentiality waiting for interaction with consciousness to collapse into defined experience. Physicist John Archibald Wheeler, one of the 20th century's giants, called it a participatory universe. He said, "The universe doesn't exist out there independently of us. We are inseparably part of it. We are the forgers and creators. Your attention isn't passive, it's creative. It doesn't just illuminate reality, it invokes it." The practice of quantum attention. So how do we apply this cosmic power in our daily life? How do we go from being an accidental observer, collapsing realities by default based on programming, to a quantum conductor deliberately choosing which symphony to manifest? The initiate in metaphysical secrets doesn't leave this power to chance. They cultivate it with daily, deliberate practice in their own consciousness workshop. The first practice, the art of deliberate observation. The master knows their attention is the tool with which they sculpt reality. Therefore, they become a master of deliberate observation. They don't allow their consciousness focus to wander randomly, illuminating fear and scarcity probabilities. They direct it with surgeon's precision. The practice begins each morning in dawn silence. The initiate doesn't begin their day reacting to the world they see. They begin their day in stillness, deciding the world they'll choose to see. Before sunlight enters through the window, they turn on their consciousness light. They take their journal and perform the daily blueprint practice. It's not a task list, it's an act of perceptual declaration. They write in present tense a description of the reality they choose to collapse that day. Today, my consciousness seeks and finds evidence of abundance everywhere. I observe and collapse a reality of creative flow and unexpected solutions. I see harmony in my relationships and feel vitality in my body. This isn't an act of fantasy, it's an act of command. It's the director giving first instructions to their cosmic production team, establishing the filter for their attention system. The second practice, vibrational attunement. The master understands observation must be charged with frequency to be effective. The field doesn't respond to cold, analytical gaze, it responds to a burning heart. Emotion is the color and intensity of the light you project. The fundamental practice here is heart coherence ritual. The initiate knows their heart is the true sun, emitting the electromagnetic field organizing their biology and reality. Several times a day, they take 5 minutes to tune their field. They close their eyes, bring attention to their chest center, and begin breathing slowly and rhythmically, imagining air entering and leaving through their heart. While breathing, they deliberately evoke high-vibration emotion. The most powerful of all, containing creation's very signature, is gratitude. They don't think gratitude, they feel it. They remember a moment of deep appreciation. They feel that warmth expanding in their chest. By combining coherent breathing with elevated emotion, the initiate is doing something miraculous. They're transforming the signal they emit from incoherent chaos to a perfect, harmonious sine wave. They're singing the song the quantum field understands perfectly. They're tuning their being to their fulfilled desire's frequency. The third practice, surrender to the field. Finally, the master performs the most paradoxical and powerful act of all. After establishing their observation with impeccable clarity and tuning their vibration with perfect coherence, they do something that terrifies the ego. They release control, surrender to the field. The initiate understands their conscious mind, with its linear logic, is too limited a tool to orchestrate manifestation's infinite complexity. Trying to control how and when is like a single water drop trying to direct the ocean's tide. Surrender isn't passivity, it's faith's supreme act. It's transferring the task from middle management, conscious mind, to infinite intelligence's CEO, subconscious mind and quantum field. The practice is conscious release. After their intention ritual, the master visualizes their desire as a sphere of brilliant light, and then, with an exhale, releases it, surrendering it to the universe with absolute confidence, saying internally, "It is done. I trust the process. I'm open to receiving this or something better in the highest way for everyone's good." By releasing anxious need to control outcome, they dissolve resistance, create a vacuum that universe intelligence rushes to fill, often in ways much more miraculous and elegant than their small mind could have conceived. You're no longer a solid object in a universe of solid objects. You're a vibrant field of consciousness in an infinite ocean of potential. Your attention is the chisel, your emotion is the force, and the quantum field is the clay. Chapter 4. The Link Between Focus and Belief. How does a flash of light become a permanent sun? How does a momentary observation transform into a law of your personal universe? The answer lies in the sacred link between focus and belief. Now we arrive at the mechanism that converts an idea into an order, a possibility into a program. If focus is the act, belief is the result. And belief, once formed, becomes your reality's automatic architect. Thought versus belief. We must once again delve into the crucial difference between a simple focused thought and a deeply rooted belief. A focused thought is a conscious act. It's like taking a visit to a new country in your imagination. You can, with effort, visit it for 5 minutes, feel its climate, see its landscapes. But when you stop focusing, your consciousness returns to its usual home, your old state of being. A belief is your home. It's the country where you permanently reside at the subconscious level. It requires no effort to be there. It's your default state. A thought is an order you give your mind once. A belief is a program running in the background 24/7, influencing each of your perceptions, emotions, and actions without you even realizing it. True manifestation doesn't occur through sporadic focused thoughts. It occurs when you've used sustained focus long enough to install a new belief in your operating system. The conscious creator's goal isn't to focus occasionally. It's to use focus as the tool to build a new belief, a new home for their consciousness. The neuroscience of conviction. Rewiring your brain. What mystics have called faith or conviction, modern neuroscience calls neuroplasticity. It's the brain's capacity to change its own structure and function in response to experience, thought, and attention. Your brain isn't a static mass of tissue. It's a plastic, dynamic universe of 100 billion neurons, each capable of forming thousands of connections. Every belief you have, every habit, every personality trait is encoded in these connections' architecture. And sustained focus is the main re-architecture tool you possess. The process follows 2 fundamental laws. Hebb's law, neurons that fire together wire together. This is neuroplasticity's fundamental principle. Every time you have a thought, a specific group of neurons fires in a particular sequence, creating a temporary neural circuit. If you have that thought only once, the connection is weak and fades. But when you use sustained focus, you're essentially ordering that same neural circuit to fire again and again. You're creating neural rehearsal. With each repetition, the synaptic connection between those neurons becomes stronger, faster, more efficient. It's like opening a path in the jungle. The first time is difficult and requires great effort, but each time you walk the same path, vegetation flattens, the trail becomes clearer, the journey becomes easier. Myelination. Paving the neural highway. As a neural circuit is used repeatedly through focus, the brain, in its infinite intelligence, decides this path is important and begins an optimization process. It sends special cells called oligodendrocytes that begin wrapping those neurons' axons in an insulating fatty sheath called myelin. Myelin is like rubber coating on a high-speed electrical cable. It prevents signal escape and allows electrical impulse to travel up to 100 times faster. A belief isn't just a path. It's an 8-lane neural highway, perfectly paved and myelin covered. That's why your old limiting beliefs are so automatic and fast. You don't have to try to feel unworthy. The thought travels on a neural superhighway you've been paving for decades. The art of installing a new belief is the art of deliberate myelination. Each sustained focus session, each meditation, each visualization, each affirmation repeated with feeling is a construction act. You're ordering your brain to divert resources from limitation's old highways and begin paving and myelinating your fulfilled desire's new highway. The 3 practices of the neuroengineer. The first practice, decree forging. The neuroengineer knows the new neural circuit's quality depends on the signal creating its quality. Therefore, they become an artisan of their decrees, their affirmations. They don't repeat empty phrases read in a book. They forge their own order in their intentions fire. Choose identity. The practice doesn't begin with what I want to have, but with who I choose to become. They choose the quality of being, that's the cause of the manifestation they desire. Not wealth, but abundance. Not success, but confidence. Use I am. The initiate knows the universe's 2 most powerful words are I am. They don't affirm I will be confident. They decree I am confidence. This isn't a future declaration. It's a present identity declaration. It's the most direct order that can be given to the subconscious. Charge with feeling. The decree must be forged in the heart, not just the head. The master asks, how does confidence feel in my body? And then pronounces the decree from that feeling. The second practice, the repetition furnace. Once the decree is forged, it must be tempered in repetition's fire. The neuroengineer understands persistence is myelination's key. They use 3 main furnaces to engrave the new belief. The morning forge, mirror ritual. The master begins their day with the most intimate and powerful ritual. They stand before the mirror, look deeply into their eyes, their subconscious windows, and pronounce their decree. They don't do it to convince themselves, but to remind themselves who they've chosen to be. They feel the word's vibration in their chest, observe old programming's resistance, and with sovereign calm, declare their new truth again. Daily tempering. Habit anchor. To keep the new circuit active during the day, the initiate stacks their new thought on existing habits. Every time they drink a glass of water, they mentally repeat their decree. Every time they wash hands, every time they stop at a red light. It requires no extra time. They simply associate the new belief with actions they already perform, creating dozens of effortless repetitions throughout the day. Nocturnal recitation, sleep portal. The most important workshop is the drowsy state. As we've seen, in this state, the critical mind's guardian sleeps. The master uses the lullaby technique, repeating their decree or a single keyword, abundance, health, again and again, softly and passively until they fall asleep. They're delivering the blueprint directly to the builder without interference so they can work on it all night. The third practice, the shield of faith, mental diet. The master engineer knows that while the new highway is being paved, old traffic, doubt, fear, senses evidence will try to divert them. Therefore, they raise faith's shield. They practice mental diet. This practice, taught by great mystic Neville Goddard, isn't a fight. It's attention, discipline. The initiate, when facing a thought contradicting their new belief, doesn't argue with it, doesn't get angry at themselves for having it. They simply practice sovereign indifference. They recognize the thought, here's the old scarcity program. They withdraw attention and then, with deliberate calm, withdraw their attention from it, close the door, and immediately return their focus to their already fulfilled desires feeling, their new beliefs feeling. They're not repressing the thought, they're starving it. They're cutting its energy supply, their attention, and redirecting that energy to new circuit construction. Each time they perform this simple refocus act is a victory. It's an act of conscious neuroengineering. The link between focus and belief is self-mastery's key. Focus is the act, belief is the result, and reality is the reflection. Chapter 5. Protocol. 1. The distraction. Fast knowledge is in your power, but knowledge without a clean operations field is useless. You can't forge a new neural highway in the middle of a chaotic battlefield, with notification bombs exploding around you and distraction ambushes at every corner. Before you can build, you must first clear the ground. Before you can train the focus muscle, you must first eliminate the poison atrophying it. Welcome to this manual's first practical protocol. The first and most radical declaration of war against power thieves. Welcome to the distraction fast. The philosophy of fasting. Why we must starve the thieves. We live in a state of perpetual intoxication. As we've seen, digital platforms are hypodermic syringes constantly injecting us with microdoses of cheap dopamine. This constant, low-quality stimulation has hijacked and recalibrated our neurochemistry. Our brain, now addicted to instant variable reward, has lost the capacity to find pleasure in activities requiring sustained focus and delayed gratification. Reading a book, learning a skill, having a deep conversation, all this feels boring. Imagine trying to teach an addict in full withdrawal syndrome the nuances of quantum physics. It's impossible. Their nervous system is screaming for the next dose, incapable of the calm and clarity necessary for deep learning. You and I, in the digital age, are that addict. The distraction fast isn't a simple digital detox. It's a deliberate and often brutal neurological detoxification protocol. Its purpose is to reset your dopamine baseline. It's starving power thieves, cutting their supply of your attention. It's an act of forcing your brain to remember how to find satisfaction, not in a screen's glow, but in its own power's depth. This fast's goal is to resensitize your mind, to recalibrate your pleasure receptors so the subtle, profound joy of flow state can again be more attractive than a notification's superficial hit. Designing your protocol. Rules of engagement. A fast without clear rules is destined for failure. This isn't a suggestion, it's a protocol, a mission. For maximum effectiveness, I recommend a 7-day period. The first 3 days will be hardest, acute withdrawal phase. The next 4 will be when you begin feeling benefits and rebuilding your power. These are the rules of engagement. They're non-negotiable. Hard, fast rules, total elimination. These are high-danger power thieves. During your protocol's 7 days, consumption is 0. Social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, etc. 0 tolerance. It's not about checking them less, it's about total elimination. The most effective method is uninstalling apps from your phone. This symbolic act is your declaration of war. News sources and content aggregators, forbidden. This includes news portals, gossip sites, aggregators like Reddit, and any platform designed to feed outrage and urgency. Your mission isn't being informed of every global crisis. Your mission is regaining control of your own consciousness. Passive video entertainment, forbidden aimless browsing on platforms like YouTube or Netflix. Using these platforms is only permitted if searching for specific predetermined information. X. A tutorial for a skill you're learning. Once you get the information, you withdraw. No more falling into recommended video black holes. Soft, fast rules, strategic management. We recognize that in the modern world, total disconnection is often impossible. These tools transform from masters to servants. Notifications, all, without exception, must be deactivated at system level on your phone and computer. Sound alerts, red bubbles, vibrations, everything. Your phone stops being a device that screams at you and becomes a silent library you consult when you decide. The only exceptions may be phone calls from key contacts, immediate family, email and messaging, WhatsApp, etc. These tools stop being constant conversation and become postal system. They're processed in predefined time blocks. For example, you check and respond to messages twice daily, once at noon and once at 5 p.m. Outside those blocks, applications remain closed. You're training the world to respect your time and focus. Phone use. Your smartphone becomes a dumb phone. Its function reduces to essentials, calls, maps, camera, and specific tools not involving infinite navigation. During your deep work blocks, it's not just silenced, it's physically moved to another room. The first 72 hours. Surviving withdrawal syndrome. I must be honest with you, initiate. This fast's first 3 days will be combat. You've declared war, and power thieves who have been feeding on your consciousness for years won't surrender without fighting. Your own nervous system, hijacked and recalibrated, will rebel. You must be prepared for withdrawal symptoms, anxiety and agitation. Your brain, deprived of its constant dopamine drip, will enter a state of craving. You'll feel inexplicable agitation, an almost irresistible impulse to just take a look. Your thumb will move alone toward where Instagram's app used to be. This is normal. It's the addict asking for their dose. The phantom in the pocket. You'll experience phantom vibration syndrome with renewed intensity. Your nervous system, so deeply rewired to anticipate distraction, will create the sensation of a notification that doesn't exist. Recognize it for what it is. Terrifying proof of how deep the hack has gone. Thunderous boredom. When external noise shuts off, you'll face an enemy most modern people fear more than anything. Boredom. In the empty space distraction once occupied, you may feel uncomfortable emptiness. This is the signal your brain has forgotten how to generate its own stimulation. Inner noise emergency. Finally, by eliminating external distractions, you remove your mind's hiding places where it's been sweeping its garbage. Inner noise, unresolved emotions, open loops, and the inner critic's voice will emerge with renewed force. When you experience these symptoms, don't despair. It's not a sign the protocol is failing. It's irrefutable proof it's working. Poison is leaving the system. Thieves are screaming because you're starving them. Every time you feel the impulse to give up and resist it, every time you feel discomfort and stay with it, you're forging your new will's steel. You're reclaiming, inch by inch, your own mind's territory. The master's diet. 3 foods of a focused mind. During your fast, you don't just eliminate the toxic. You actively introduce the nutritious. You replace distraction's empty calories with consciousness superfoods. First food, deep work. Immersion. Your brain, now detoxified from cheap dopamine, craves a deeper, more sustainable satisfaction source. The antidote for boredom and agitation you felt in early days is flow state. Total immersion in a cognitively demanding task. The practice. Instead of hours you once devoted to aimless browsing, you now reassign that time to your great work. You choose your highest leverage task, the one requiring maximum concentration, and immerse yourself in it without distractions. You create a sanctuary of silence, as we learned in the first protocol, and surrender completely to the act of creating, solving, learning. The alchemy. By doing this, you're teaching your brain a new lesson about pleasure. You're demonstrating that deepest satisfaction doesn't come from a notification's instant reward, but from pride and serene euphoria arising from overcoming challenge and creating something valuable. You're replacing addiction to distraction with devotion to mastery. Second food. High-quality information nutrition. You've stopped consuming mass media and social media's informational junk food. Now you must feed your mind with information that nourishes, expands, and strengthens it. The practice. Be deliberate with your consumption. Instead of browsing the internet, choose a deep, challenging book to read during your fast week. Instead of listening to superficial entertainment podcasts, choose one teaching you a new skill or exposing you to ideas expanding your worldview. Consume less, but consume better. The alchemy. You're replacing noise with signal. You're changing your mind's internal conversation, moving from reactivity and outrage to curiosity and learning. You're providing your internal architect with highest quality materials so they can design grander, more sophisticated blueprints for your life. Third food. Authentic connection, presence, and conversation. You've eliminated social media's superficial interactions. Now you must fill that void with true human connections nutrition. The practice. Use the time and mental energy you freed to invest in authentic connections. Call a friend you haven't talked to in a long time, not to text, but to have a real conversation. Meet a loved one for coffee, and during that time, keep your phone stored and offer them the gift of your total presence. Listen without interrupting. Share with vulnerability. The alchemy. You're reminding your nervous system how true connection feels, a satisfaction no like can imitate. You're replacing digital connection's illusion with human intimacy's real resonance, healing the loneliness hyperconnectivity often creates. The distraction fast has been completed. You've eliminated the thieves, nourished your mind with quality fuel, and begun remembering what true focus feels like. Now you're ready for the next level of training. Chapter 6. Protocol 2. The concentration muscle. This is the moment many give up. They conclude they're not made for concentration, that their mind is naturally scattered. But this is the greatest lie. Focus is not an innate gift. It's a muscle. And like any muscle, if it's never been trained, it's weak and flaccid. But with correct, constant, progressive practice, it can become a force of titanic power. This chapter is your gym, and the only equipment you need is your own consciousness. We're going to train the concentration muscle, the mind's gym, the art of monofocal meditation. Before beginning, we must tear down the myths surrounding meditation. Meditation in this manual's context is not a religious practice. It's not about emptying the mind, an impossible goal generating only frustration, and its main objective isn't even relaxation, though this is often a pleasant side effect. Monofocal meditation, what we'll practice, is essentially calisthenics for attention. It's the most rigorous and effective strength training for your prefrontal cortex, your focus director, the muscle allowing you to direct your mind's laser at will. The exercise is incredibly simple in design and incredibly challenging in execution. It consists of 3 steps. Choose a single focus object. Maintain attention on that object. When the mind wanders, and it will, inevitably, become aware and with gentle firmness, bring it back to the focus object. The real training, the repetition-building muscle, isn't in step 2. It's in step 3. Every time you realize you've been distracted and consciously redirect your attention, you're performing a push-up for your brain. You're strengthening executive control's neural circuit. You're weakening old distraction habits and reinforcing your capacity to keep the laser beam steady. The central protocol, breath as anchor. The initiate in mind art doesn't sit to meditate randomly. They treat it as their day's most important training. Choose time and place. Choose a time and place where you won't be interrupted. Consistency is key, so they often do it first thing in the morning, before the world begins its assault on their attention. Adopt dignity's posture. They sit in a chair or on a cushion with straight but not rigid back. They know physiology influences psychology. A hunched back is submission and distractions posture. A straight back is alertness, dignity, the master on their throne's posture. Choose anchor. Now they choose their focus object. To start, the most accessible and powerful of all is their breath's sensation. Not the idea of breath, not the story about breath, but the simple, direct physical sensation of air entering and leaving through their nostrils' tip or their abdomen's gentle rise and fall. Begin training. And then work begins. Their only task for the next 10, 20, or 30 minutes is keeping their attention's focus anchored on that small, subtle sensation. They try to notice every nuance: air temperature entering, temperature leaving, brief pause between inhalation and exhalation, conscious return, and inevitably the mind, like a restless puppy, will escape. A sound will distract it, a memory will drag it to the past, a worry will launch it to the future. The beginner at this point gets frustrated. I can't do it. My mind won't quiet. The master instead smiles inwardly. They know this isn't failure, this is training. The moment they realize their mind has strayed is a victory moment, a flash of awareness. And in that moment, without judgment, without anger, as if gently taking a puppy by the neck, they accompany their attention back to breath. Again and again, 100 times if necessary. Each of these returning acts is a repetition, a weightlifting. With each return, the prefrontal muscle strengthens. With each return, they're teaching their brain, at a fundamental level, Who's in charge? Training progression. The master understands that, as in any physical training, progression is key. They begin with short, manageable sessions, maybe just 5 minutes daily, and their only goal is consistency. It's better to meditate 5 minutes every day than 1 hour once a month. As their muscle strengthens, they gradually increase session duration, 10 minutes, then 15, then 20. They can also increase difficulty by changing the focus object. Visual focus. They can practice candle flame meditation. They sit in a dark room and place their unwavering attention on a candle flame's brightest point, training their capacity to maintain visual focus without distractions. Auditory focus. They can use a mantra, repetition of a word, or sacred sound, like Om. The goal is for their attention to merge with sound's vibration, silencing inner dialogue. Somatic focus. They can choose a single sensation in their body, like their heartbeat, and anchor their attention there. All these practices' goal is the same: training the capacity to maintain monofocal focus, to be master of one's own attention. Taking the muscle to the playing field. We've explored the mind's gym. We've understood meditation isn't escape, but the most rigorous strength training for our consciousness. It's the process through which we forge an attention muscle capable of sustaining unshakable focus. But a strong muscle in the gym is useless if you don't know how to apply it in life's playing field. How does this concentration capacity translate into creating value, producing masterpieces, and manifesting new reality? Now it's time to take that muscle to life's playing field. It's time to apply your new power to create value in the world, to produce works of quality and depth the scattered mind could never conceive. The practice of deep work. Author Cal Newport, in his fundamental work on the subject, defines deep work as professional activities performed in a state of distraction-free concentration that push your cognitive capabilities to their limit. These efforts create new value, improve your skills, and are hard to replicate. In contrast, there's shallow work, tasks of low cognitive demand, often logistical in nature, performed while distracted. These efforts tend not to create much new value in the world and are easy to replicate. The modern professional's tragedy is their day has been devoured by shallow work. They live in a whirlwind of emails, meetings, instant messages, and administrative tasks. They're constantly busy but rarely productive in the deepest sense of the word. Their mind, like a light bulb, dimly illuminates hundreds of small tasks without the intensity necessary to create something truly extraordinary. The focus master understands the deep work hypothesis. The ability to perform deep work is becoming increasingly rare at exactly the same time it's becoming increasingly valuable in our economy. As a consequence, the few who cultivate this skill and make it the core of their working life will thrive. The 4 focus scheduling philosophies. The initiate doesn't leave their deep work sessions to chance. They make them the central pillar of their professional life. And for this they adopt one of 4 focus scheduling philosophies, the monastic philosophy. This is the most radical approach. The initiate following this path eliminates or drastically reduces all sources of distraction and shallow work from their life. Like a monk in their monastery, they isolate themselves to reach the highest levels of concentration and creation. This is the path of some great thinkers or artists who withdraw from the world to create their masterpiece. The bimodal philosophy. This approach alternates between periods of monastic isolation and periods of complete availability. The initiate might decide to dedicate an entire month to a deep work project, disconnected from the world, then return for the next 2 months to their shallow obligations. Or they can apply a weekly version, dedicating, for example, 3 days a week to deep work and 2 to meetings and emails. The rhythmic philosophy. This is the most accessible and often most sustainable philosophy for most people. It consists of creating a daily deep work ritual. The initiate turns focus into a habit. They choose a sacred time block each day, maybe 90 minutes from 6 to 7:30 a.m. before the world awakens, and during that time, their only mission is deep work. Nothing else matters. By creating constant rhythm, they reduce the need to use willpower to start. Practice becomes automatic. The journalistic philosophy. This is the most advanced level of mastery. It requires an already well-trained attention muscle. The initiate following this path has the capacity to enter deep work mode anytime an unexpected block of free time appears. Like a journalist who can write an article in a newsroom's chaos, they can leverage 30 minutes between meetings to make significant progress on their most important task. The initiate chooses the philosophy best suited to their temperament and life's demands, but the underlying principle is the same. Deep work isn't something you do when you have time. It's something you make time for. It's protected with the same ferocity a lion protects its cubs. The concentration muscle isn't trained for the simple pleasure of being strong. It's trained to be used. Deep work is applying that muscle to create works of value, quality, and depth the scattered mind could never conceive. Chapter 7. Protocol 3. The Lens of Imagination. Now that you have the capacity to focus, we must answer the most important question. What are you going to focus on? We enter the third and most creative of protocols, the architect's workshop, the soul's cinema. We're going to explore the art of directing your attention's laser through imagination's lens. Imagination is humanity's most misunderstood and underestimated faculty. We've relegated it to children's and artists' corner, seeing it as a form of escapism, daydreaming that takes us away from real life. But the initiate in Mind Secrets knows the truth. Imagination is not an escape from reality. It's the workshop where reality is built. Every great human achievement, from the most imposing cathedral to the rocket traveling to stars, first existed as a sustained image in someone's imagination. Imagination isn't fantasy. It's consciousness's quantum simulator, the portal through which invisible potentiality becomes tangible possibility. When you focus on an image in your mind, you're not simply thinking. You're performing an act of physics. You're acting as the observer who, with their attention's power, collapses the quantum field's infinite probability wave into an experience particle. Your imagination is the mold. The quantum field is the clay. The problem: worry as destructive imagination. The problem is most of us use this divine power unconsciously and often destructively. Worry is nothing more than imagination's undisciplined use. It's the act of using your mental workshop to build, with exquisite detail and immense emotional charge, vivid simulations of the futures you most fear. You're a first-rate horror film director, and your nervous system, which doesn't distinguish between real experience and vividly imagined one, reacts as if catastrophe were already occurring. The Sears protocol is taking control of the camera, stopping being a horror film director by default and becoming the visionary director of your life's masterpiece. The complex visualization fallacy. Many manifestation teachings make a fundamental error. They encourage visualizing long, complex processes. If you want a successful business, they tell you to visualize every step: product creation, marketing campaigns, client negotiations, employee hiring. Though well-intentioned, this approach is often counterproductive for several reasons. Activates the logical mind. When you try to visualize a complex process, you inevitably activate your conscious, analytical mind. And this mind immediately begins introducing doubt. What if this step doesn't work? What if the market doesn't respond? This isn't realistic. The old reality's guardian awakens and sabotages the process. Introduces failure points. Each step you imagine is an opportunity for doubt to seep in. If you can't vividly imagine one of the steps, you might conclude the entire process is impossible. Limits the universe. By rigidly defining how, you're limiting the infinite and often much more elegant ways the universe could orchestrate your manifestation. You're trying to draw a map with limited terrain knowledge. The power of a single scene. The secret of fulfilled desire. The mind master knows the subconscious doesn't respond to complexity. It responds to clarity and emotion. Their power doesn't reside in imagining the journey, but in inhabiting the destination. Disciplined imagination's most potent technique is holding a single, brief, powerful scene implying your desire is already accomplished fact. You don't focus on how you'll get there. You transport yourself in a quantum leap of consciousness to the moment after having arrived. This technique is astonishingly effective because it completely bypasses the logical mind's guardian. You don't present it a plan to critique. You present it an accomplished fact, a memory of the future. When you create an end scene in your imagination and imbue it with reality's feeling, your subconscious mind accepts it as memory. And once it has an event's memory, its only function is working tirelessly to close the gap between that internal memory and your external reality. It strives to reproduce in the outer world the image it has already accepted as real in the inner world. The art of choosing your scene, the door to the end. Choosing this scene is an art in itself. It must meet 3 criteria. Must be a moment after realization. Don't choose the achievement moment scene, which is often charged with emotion difficult to sustain. Choose a scene that would naturally take place after your desire has been fulfilled and has already become a normal part of your life. Example: wealth. The scene isn't winning the lottery. It's perhaps a calm conversation with your financial advisor a week later, where you discuss investments with a sensation of calm and security. Example: health. The scene isn't the moment the doctor gives you news. It's perhaps the simple, joyful act, a month later, of tying your shoelaces to go running, something previously impossible, feeling strength in your body. Example: love. The scene isn't the first date. It's perhaps being on the couch on any night with your partner's head in your lap, feeling a deep, serene sense of belonging. Must imply interaction. A scene where you're alone can be powerful, but a scene implying interaction with another person often has more power to convince the subconscious because it anchors experience in shared reality. The key is, the interaction must confirm your desire. A friend congratulating you, your partner saying, "I love you," a client thanking you for your service. These interactions act as external validation within your internal drama. Must be short and repeatable. The scene must be a short loop, no more than 10 to 20 seconds. This allows you to repeat it again and again in your mind like a visual mantra until it's engraved in your subconscious. The seer's practice is one of imagination economy. They don't build an entire movie, they build the perfect trailer of the final scene. The Divine Director's Workshop, Focused Imagination Practices. We've understood the philosophy and science of living as if. We've accepted our role as method actors of our own divinity. But what's rehearsal like? How does the actor prepare for their great role on life's stage? The initiate in focus art doesn't leave their practice to chance. They enter their inner workshop with master's discipline and follow an embodiment process. The first practice, sensory script writing. The master creator knows clarity is power. Before entering their mind's theater, they first write the script. They take their journal and, with screenwriter's precision, define the scene they'll rehearse. Their first question is, what's the simplest, most natural scene that would imply my desire is already accomplished fact? The initiate knows they shouldn't choose the manifestation scene itself, receiving money, meeting the person, because it's often charged with emotion difficult to sustain. They choose, instead, a scene that would take place just after. A moment of calm, naturalness, already accepted reality. If the desire is prosperity, the scene might be a conversation with a loved one where they casually say, "I've never felt so financially secure." If the desire is healing, the scene might be them tying shoelaces to go running, a simple act previously impossible. If the desire is love, the scene might be them on the couch with their partner's head in their lap, feeling deep, quiet sense of belonging. Once the scene is chosen, the initiate writes it in their journal, not as a story, but as a first-person sensory script. They detail what they see through their own eyes, what sounds they hear, what textures they feel, and most importantly, what's the central emotion permeating the entire scene? Relief, gratitude, peace. This script is their score. The second practice, first-person immersion. With script in hand, the director doesn't sit in the audience. They get on stage. The most crucial practice is first-person immersion. The master doesn't see themselves signing the contract. They feel the pen in their hand. They see ink flowing on paper through their own eyes. They hear the sound of their own voice saying, "It's done." They're fooling their nervous system, convincing it the experience is real. The third practice, emotional amplification. A scene, however vivid, without emotion, is a body without soul. The director must now become the soundtrack's composer. They ask, "What's the feeling of fulfilled desire?" and then use tools they already know. They use a past memory to evoke triumph's emotion. They use music to tune their heart to joy's frequency. They use their body, adopting a power posture to generate confidence's chemistry. And then they inject this emotion into their imaginary scene. They color it, give it life. The integrated practice, nocturnal rehearsal. The initiate knows the most powerful stage, the theater where the subconscious is the only and most receptive audience, is the drowsy state. Each night, they prepare for their rehearsal. They lie down, completely relax their body, and once they feel the logical mind's guardian beginning to drowse, real work begins. They don't force it. Simply, with gentle intention, they enter the scene they've scripted. They live it in first person. They feel the congratulatory handshake, hear their friend's words, feel the wave of calm and gratitude. And then the curtain falls. They return to the brief scene's beginning and repeat it again and again like a lullaby, like a gentle sensory and emotional mantra. The goal isn't staying awake and analyzing the scene. It's repeating it with drowsy passivity until reality's feeling floods them. And then they fall asleep. They fall asleep in the midst of their fulfilled desire, in their new home, in their new state of being. This act of impregnating the subconscious mind just before sleep is the most potent manifestation act that exists. You're delivering the finished film to the universe's most powerful projector just before it begins its 8-hour shift building your world. Imagination's lens is your most creative tool. It's the portal through which consciousness's formless energy takes specific form. You've learned not to be a passive dreamer, but a deliberate director. Conclusion: the awakening of absolute focus. You have completed the journey from scattered light to laser beam. You have learned to transform your consciousness's diffuse energy into focused power that cuts through any obstacle and manifests any reality. The knowledge you now possess isn't theoretical, it's practical. You have the tools to eliminate the power thieves, fragmenting your mind, train the concentration muscle until it becomes unshakable. Direct your attention's laser through imagination's lens. Apply absolute focus to create massive value and wealth. Maintain unwavering faith despite doubt's attacks. But remember, knowledge without application is powerless. The most sophisticated laser is useless if it remains in the laboratory. Your transformation begins the moment you choose to apply these protocols in your daily life. The 3 stages of mastery. Your journey from this point forward will unfold in 3 distinct stages. Stage 1, the purification, days 1 to 30. In your first month, you'll experience digital detox withdrawal symptoms and your untrained mind's initial resistance. This is the hardest phase, but also most crucial. You're breaking distractions' chains and beginning to remember what true focus feels like. Stage 2, the strengthening, days 31-90. In months 2 and 3, your focus muscle begins showing real strength. You'll notice longer periods of sustained attention, deeper flow states, and higher quality output from your work. External noise that once derailed you now barely registers. Stage 3, the mastery, day 91 and beyond. After 3 months of consistent practice, something profound shifts. Focus is no longer something you do, it becomes something you are. Your default state is presence, not distraction. Your natural mode is depth, not surface. The sacred responsibility. With this power comes responsibility. You now understand what most people don't. Attention is the most precious resource in human existence, and most people are hemorrhaging it unconsciously. You have a choice. You can use this knowledge solely for personal gain, or you can become a guardian of consciousness, someone who not only masters their own attention, but helps others reclaim theirs. the world is drowning in distraction. Mental health crises, declining productivity, eroding deep relationships, all symptoms of our collective inability to focus. You now have the antidote. Share it wisely. Teach by example. Show others what's possible when a human being operates from absolute focus rather than scattered attention. Your daily declaration. As you begin this new chapter, carry with you this daily declaration, the creed of the focused mind. I am the master of my attention. I choose where to direct my consciousness's laser. I do not scatter my power. I concentrate it. I do not chase every distraction. I pursue my highest purpose with unwavering devotion. My mind is not a victim of external forces. It is my reality's sovereign director. My focus is not a luxury. It is my most sacred responsibility. I create value through depth, not breadth. I build mastery through persistence, not perfection. I manifest my vision through concentrated consciousness's sustained application. I am no longer a light bulb, diffusing my energy in all directions. I am a laser beam, cutting through obstacles with precision and power. This is my commitment. This is my path. This is my awakening. If this manual has ignited transformation's fire within you, you're invited to join our community of laser minds, individuals who have chosen absolute focus's path over distraction's chaos. Subscribe to this channel to continue receiving advanced teachings that will deepen your mastery. Each subscriber strengthens our collective field of focused consciousness. Like this video as your public declaration that you choose focus over distraction, depth over surface, mastery over mediocrity. Share this knowledge with someone ready to reclaim their power. In a world of scattered minds, be the one who shows others the way back to their center. Write in the comments, I accept the power of focus to seal your commitment to this transformative path. The final truth. The ultimate truth is this. You already possess infinite power. It has never been a question of acquiring more power, only of learning to stop wasting the power you have. Every moment of distraction is a moment of power leaked. Every act of focus is a moment of power reclaimed. The choice is always yours, in every moment, with every breath. The age of scattered consciousness is ending. The age of absolute focus has begun. Welcome to your awakening. Welcome to your power. Welcome to the life that becomes possible when you finally learn to focus absolutely. Your consciousness's laser beam awaits your command. Point it toward your highest vision and watch as the impossible becomes inevitable. Your transformation starts now.